All right, Panthers. So today we're going to look at the Stonewall riots, which is really where the gay and lesbian rights movement really kind of kicked off, and it all comes back to this little tiny bar in a neighborhood in New York City in the late 1960s that kind of kickstarts the gay and lesbian LGBTQT um, rights movement. All comes back to this. So the Stonewall Inn was a notorious gay bar in this neighborhood in New York City known as Greenwich Village, which had always kind of had kind of a very funky, very alternative lifestyle vibe. It was a mecca for artists and musicians and kind of hippies and bohemians and drifters, and it had always been this very eclectic neighborhood of all these different types of people. And there were a number of gay bars, the most famous one of which, most notorious one of which, was the Stonewall Inn, which attracted cross dressers and homosexuals and um, bisexuals. I mean, it attracted all of these people, as well as a number of heterosexual people who would also come and just hang out for the spectacle, for the fun, for the atmosphere, for whatever. Well, the Stonewall Inn was a frequent target of the New York City police, who would raid the bar and arrest the people inside the bar on charges of lewd and obscene conduct, violating decency laws, and so on and so forth. Now, harassment and suspicion of homosexuals has a very long history, not only in the United States, but throughout the world. One of the most notorious examples is what's known as the Lavender Scare, which happened in the late 1950s into the 1960s, when it was suspected that communist spies and communist insurgents preyed upon gay men, threatening to out them, which would have been a horrific thing for them to have happen. It was very, very taboo. It was just not accepted at all in any way for anyone to be gay in 1950s America. And so there was this fear, this suspicion that communist insurgents and communist spies were preying upon gay men to get them to become communist spies and work on behalf of the Communist Party in exchange for the Communist Party not outing them as gay men. And this is known as the Lavender Scare. And so it becomes suspicion that now they begin to link homosexuality to communism. And if you're a homosexual, then you're probably a communist or working for the communists to hide, your identity. So that's known as the Lavender Scare. So, this has a very long history in the United States where they target the homosexual community for being deviant, for being different, for being wrong, and you need to watch them with suspicion. Now, beginning in the late 1950s and into the 1960s, there begins to be the rumblings and the beginnings of a gay rights movement. One of the early gay civil rights groups was known as the Medicine and Daughters of Bilitis. And it was, I don't know what the terms mean, but it was a gay civil rights organization working on behalf of recognition of the civil rights and working for equal rights for the gay and lesbian community. And you can see there's a picture there in 1965. We didn't dodge the draft dodges us, which is reference to Vietnam, where so many students, young people, were dodging the draft. They were trying to avoid from being drafted to go off to Vietnam. But the United States would not accept openly gay men into the military at that time. If you were openly gay, you were not drafted. And so that's the protest here, that these gay men are saying we would willingly be drafted and go off to war, but the government won't take us. They begin to publish their own magazine, The Ladder, which was specifically really targeted on the lesbian community, but it was also they would also address just general homosexual problems and rights and struggles. So Stonewall, there is a riot when the police show up one time and they're going to clean out the bar and arrest all these people for violating obscenity laws and decency laws and so on and so forth. At some point in time, the community decides enough is enough, and they barricade themselves inside the bar and they fight against the police. They fight against this targeted prejudice. And the standoff lasts for several days, and it's known as the Stonewall Riot. This really kind of kickstarts and brings national attention to the struggle for civil rights for the homosexual community. And it begins the gay liberation movement. It begins Pride. It begins really bringing the focus of civil rights, which has been a growing movement in the United States, brings that focus to the gay and lesbian movement. And we get things like Pride Day and Pride Week, and the adoption of pride symbols, where people begin to openly declare that they are gay or that they are lesbian or that they are transsexual or whatever. They begin to embrace that and publicly declare it without fear of really any retribution. And that movement has grown more and more and more until today, where it's become almost, for the most part, pretty accepted in American society, where they become a dominant form. They become a very obvious form of a group in the entertainment industry, right? We have every day we see openly gay and lesbian people in our everyday life. The Village People, which was a disco group from the 1970s, they came from Greenwich Village, which becomes known after Stonewall as a openly gay neighborhood. And so these are some men from the Greenwich Village area. They call themselves the Village People, and they dressed in all these different costumes and so on and so forth to show that there are gay people in all walks of life, that they're construction workers, that they're policemen, that they're motorcycle riders, that they're in the army, that they're Native American, that they're cowboys. All walks of life, there are gay people in it. And they become a pretty popular band during the 1960s. Their biggest hit being YMCA, which is, of course, an anthem song. You hear it at every school dance. You hear it at every wedding. Little Nas X, obviously a very popular musician at this point, who recently came out as a gay man. Ellen DeGeneres, who has a very popular talk show, came out famously on her sitcom in the 1990s. The Ellen Show came out on that show as a lesbian. And then, of course, the David Rose from a very popular Netflix program, who also portrayed is in real life and on the show an openly gay man. So here's the question that we're going to look at today. What caused the Stonewall riots? What was the event? What were the reasons that the Stonewall riots, which kind of brings to the forefront and kickstarts the gay rights movement, what caused those riots to take place? That is our question that you guys are going to answer based on your analysis of information and documents from the time period. All right, Panthers, good luck.